All right, hello and welcome everyone to episode 80 of the GGG Podcast. I'm Paul, and joining me as always is my co-host Phil. We are wrapping up the weekend, the Summer Games Fest week. There are still a couple of other events going on, but we just watched the Xbox showcase, and we just want to wrap up all the big, exciting news. But before we get into that stuff, if you haven't already liked and subscribed on our YouTube channel, please do so. And if you're listening to the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, follow us over there as well. Real quick, before we get started, I want to shout out one of our YouTube commenters, Zesty Plays. He's a YouTube viewer and he's loving the show. He's telling us to keep up the good work. Thank you, Zesty Plays. Appreciate your support. That's really
cool.
Yeah. So Phil, I think since we're recording this on a weird day, let's just skip what we've been playing. Let's just get into your general impressions of the Summer Games Fest, how it went, and then we'll get into the specific showcases and move on down the line. How do you feel about that?
That's great, because I haven't been playing Jack Diddley this week.
Coming up this September,
general
Jack Diddley.
Coming up. It's really addictive. Coming up this week from the response of how Summer Games Fest went. I don't know. I care about maybe 3 games that I've seen, and the rest I'm like, sure, it might be good.
Yeah.
It feels like just all of the heavy hitters are asleep, and sure, we got, here's a little Black Ops, the Invincible game that everyone was really excited for. It's a fighting game. We'll talk more about it later, but like. You guys not have anything to tell us about? There's so many things that you could be working on, and we got this. That Sony, this 1 or 2 highlights. Xbox 1 or 2 highlights. The most of that bulk is in the Summer Games Fest main stage. How did you feel about it so far?
I mean, overall, very mid. And the reason I say that, and I don't say it was bad, is because I do feel like this was a good Summer Games Fest for like more artsy games, like more lower level developers. I think especially at the main stage, the game felt that boxing, I think, looks really cool. Out of Words looks really cool. So those are very artsy, very interesting aesthetics that I think was a win. But there was just a lot of nonsense everywhere, and it wasn't just Sony State of Play or the Summer Games Fest main stage or the Xbox Showcase. I feel like every show had their like confetti of nonsense that they threw in everything, that you're just kind of like sitting there. It's like, okay, what's next? And just in general, like this is very much my opinion, but there's just a lot of JRPGs or Japanese like fighting games that all the trailers are exactly the same. And it kind of drives me a little bit crazy because there's no writing. It's just like these vague platitudes of like, man craves power. The power tree gave that to us until it was taken away. Or just like the most generic thing imaginable. And it's not, and it's just like everybody's a superhero. There's no explanation. There's just no justification anywhere. So there were a lot of those games throughout all 3 of the shows that was disappointing for me. But some of the Western games do that as well. And like you just mentioned, Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and that's kind of so yeah, pretty mid.
We're gonna hope. I can't wait to tear that one up. Sadly, it's further into the list of things that we're gonna talk about. So why don't we kick it off and talk about Sony's State of Play and see what they had to show us?
Yeah, I mean, at the top of this list, this was not the first thing they announced. It's just the thing I was most excited for was Sword of the Sea. So this is coming from the developers of Journey and Abzu and Flower And I absolutely love this developer. And this game, it really feels like a culmination of all of their projects that they've worked on and all of the technology that they made. And they've put it into one big game. And I think it looks incredible. I think aesthetically, it looks like a freaking painting. I love it. I'm excited for it. Sword of the Sea is a day one purchase for me. And I just hope that it comes out soon because I don't think we got a release date on this one.
This one, planned release date is August 19th.
Oh, we did. That's perfect. That's not far away
not
either.
too
I
bad.
love it. I got to open up my state of playlists. Okay, here we go.
That's I feel like the right distance to announce a game like that, especially
Yeah.
like a little bit of time to get excited for it. I do think a lot of this is just in general, I think any sort of, and it's available right now, definitely dampen sales because it's just happened a few too many times over the past couple of years.
Sure.
And we need time for the hype to build. Sword of the Sea looks really great. I think everything you said, I'm right on board with, and I'm excited to. That seems like such a good chill. Smoke a little weed, or whatever you do, and just play that game.
Whatever I do.
Whatever you, the listener, do. I don't know if you're doing some harder stuff, but just have a quick hit of fentanyl and play Sword of the Sea.
Okay. All right. Or just have a sandwich.
That's probably the same experience. You probably see some similar colors and shapes. But let's go ahead and talk about something a little bit more grounded. 007 First Light, huh?
Yes. 007
Okay.
First Light. Yeah, what was your first impression of this?
It looks like a fun action game. I just kind of am nostalgic for the days of getting 007 games.
Sure.
We haven't had one in a while. I remember, I think GoldenEye got a remake recently, and then there was an Xbox original story 007 game. But outside of that, really hasn't been much. And I think the sort of action spy world is not just been done very well numerous times video games, but I think also a pretty interesting place to tell stories. Like if you think about it, this looks like kind of Uncharted or things like that, where the character 007 has a lot of character to himself, and on top of that, a very interesting world with some cool action set pieces, and probably a lot of world building just in the moment-to-moment gameplay when you're not blowing stuff up. So
yeah, it's like Uncharted, except he has a budget behind him.
Yeah.
He works for the government. This was Sony's big secret, aside from the next game we're going to talk about, the Marvel game that they announced. But I guess for me, it was exciting to see this. I just was hoping for more out of them than just 007. I do feel like this is a good step, though, in that they are creating their own 007 gaming universe where they are not trying to recreate the movies, although some of that happened later on the main stage show with the Hitman Assassination. But they're not trying to recreate the movies. This is their own 007. This is their own story that they can craft. And I like that because it gives the game developers some freedom to work with. So I am happy to see a fully mo-capped, very cinematic story action game to come back to Sony's platform. So I'll probably be picking this up. But yeah, I guess my expectations were higher than just this. So
nothing too incredible. For most of us, for 007, I feel like, I don't know. That's I guess 007 James Bond is there is a generational divide between people who really mess with, or the majority of people who really mess with 007.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, right on the money, Marvel Tokon.
Fighting Souls.
Listen, they can put whatever nonsense they want at the end of it. It's another Marvel fighting game. It looks like Marvel vs. Capcom, but without any of those silly Ryu and Ken and his zany friends. Now it's just Spider-Man and Gambit punching the hell out of each other. And it looks like this game looks visually stunning. It kind of reminds me of when we first saw Dragon Ball FighterZ. And
sure.
how that was like, oh wow, this looks like an anime come to life. This almost this seems like a different, like it definitely doesn't look like another art style that we've seen before. So I'm excited about that. It looks very gamey, but just what fighting games, kind of the next generation of fighting games, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks really cool. It definitely has its own aesthetic. I thought it was Marvel versus Capcom as the trailer got going. But I don't know. I wasn't, again, like this was their closing announcement, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this big developer doc at the end of it during the show, and I like couldn't care less. Like, all you're talking about is how fortunate you are that you got the Marvel license, and that's cool. It's got a cool aesthetic. It's, fighting games are not really, my thing. I think that Iron Man looked cool, but essentially it's just he looked like a Gundam, which is cool. But I don't know. I again,
isn't Iron Man essentially a Gundam?
I mean, no, right?
I mean, he's just a small Gundam.
So, but they're like, we created this amazing Iron Man design. It's like all you did is you put the little V on his helmet. That's all they did.
So it looks like a Shogun.
Yeah. So it looks cool. It does. But this is a game that I probably like want to play at a friend's house. Maybe if, you get it, come over and we could do some local old school co-op or versus, that kind of a thing. But probably not a game that I'm going to be getting on my own. But yeah, it looks cool. I think it will sell very well. And riding the coattails of Marvel rivals, I think that, the Marvel games are just going to continue to find success for the time being. So
yeah, I think this is we had, I think you and I both played the Avengers game, and
quite a bit.
We'd hoped for something good there, but it seems like for the broader roster of Marvel characters outside of like a Spider-Man game or hopefully the upcoming Black Panther, and Captain America game, it seems like they sort of found their niche in terms of games with lots of characters, like a big roster, so you can play as who you want, and repeatable action that people can get involved in. Hopefully this one lands because it looks really, really cool. I do like the Captain America jacket design. Pretty sick.
Yeah, I think the aesthetic is cool, and it looks like it runs really well. So yeah, I'm curious to see more. They didn't show off too many characters in this, so I'm excited to see what the full roster looks like. But yeah. All right, let's move on to another Sony announcement. So Silent Hill F. This is another one not for me.
I feel like it's Silent Hill because it's a lowercase f.
It's a lowercase f.
I don't know how to illustrate that in the title.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I will say the graphics looked really cool. And the gameplay looked interesting. I think the trailer lingered a little bit too long to the point of like, are you going to show me the whole game right now?
Yeah.
So, but I think it looks and feels cool. Silent Hill, I'm not into Silent Hill games, so I will watch this one at a distance and it'll be cool. But not for me. What do you think, Phil?
I don't mess with Silent Hill. I need my horror games by the end of them for me to be the monster. Dead Space 1, Dead Space 2, Resident Evil, all of them. By the end of the game, I want the zombies, I want the monsters running from me. And at no point in Silent Hill games does that ever happen. You don't advance,
right.
You just kind of like survive.
You survive,
and that's fine if you're into that, but I'm just 100% not into that.
Yeah.
The next game on the list, though, seems really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And based on the trailer, it's kind of hard to conceptualize like exactly how it's going to work. But the game is called Tides of Tomorrow. And it seems to be the type of game that has got almost... let's see if I can break it down and explain it correctly. It's got a story that evolves as you play, sort of like an RPG, or there's characters that you interact with. And depending on how your friends play their game, almost as if like a leaderboard, choices they make will cross over to your world, and people will be like, hey, that's the guy that killed my cat. and then someone will hate you out of nowhere, and vice
Right.
versa. So it's this game of almost mistaken identity, and you having to live with the reputation of what other people have done, and that seems really really cool.
Yeah. It Tides of Tomorrow, it looked like the most innovative multiplayer, I will say, that was at the entire show.
Hmm.
Entire week of shows. So like I really like it. I think that's a very interesting way to create like mission generation, like where it's like, as you were describing, of like he stole my cat or he robbed this place, and now I'm how you choose what you're going to do is you choose to follow another player's path. How will that work if you're the first person online? I don't know.
But everybody in the game's like, "Hello." That's
You
it.
seem like a nice guy.
And as
So
the first person to play the game, you have the responsibility to play as a monster, just to murder everyone you come across.
yes. So I thought it looked really cool. I think it is a cool aesthetic, and this is what I want to see more. As far as multiplayer games go, I want to see more solid, like just different ideas for multiplayer that isn't the same thing that we see all the time of just like, oh, it's a new hero shooter, the thingamabobber, and like even on last week's episode, I talked a little bit about Splitgate 2, which officially released this week. They were on the Summer Games Fest main stage, and they this isn't on our list, so I'll bring it up now. But they announced their Battle Royale mode, which it's a spin on Battle Royale, and one that I'm a little bit interested in taking a look at, just because you can respawn.
Interesting.
And you will respawn automatically if your team is still alive. So they do not have
That's
to
cool.
necessarily revive you. And so to me, that's not quite Battle Royale, but I like the concept of that. So I think that's okay. But like what we talked about with the portals, it just feels like a little bit of a gimmick, as opposed to really changing the core of what multiplayer gameplay is. And I think that's why I've been so addicted to the finals, is because the main game mode in the finals is unique from any other competitive game out there. So
Well, and the destruction in the finals, like
yeah,
their portals being fully destructible environments actually changes how you play the game. Versus now the portals in Splitgate 2 do feel ancillary, like you were saying. Like they don't matter. Sometimes they're handy, but they're not your
yeah,
main weapon. Your main weapon is just beating people to death. So
yeah, yeah. So, all right, let's keep it on rolling. We got Thief VR coming to PlayStation VR 2. I have to say, like, this is a good game for VR. I think like Thief is perfect for this. Pretty successful game, the Thief franchise, and I think like I really like how it looked. I hope that it actually looks like that on PSVR 2. Although I have to say, like PSVR 2's graphics are probably the best thing that it does, as far as like comparing it to other VR hardware. So, but I liked the hands, the visual of the hands moving everywhere. I think like sneaking around, taking things, having to be cautious, and I just think it's a really good genre match for the gameplay. So even
yeah,
though I'm not really a VR gamer, I can see how this would work very well, and I got that impression from this trailer. So
yeah, same. I think in terms of like Thief is probably a less action packed uh game for sort of like games of that type. Like trying to think of what is the assassin game? Dishonored 1, Dishonored 2.
yeah,
Feel like spiritual successors to Thief with a little bit more action. Like you're meant to
yes,
get into the fights and mix it up. So this I think works a little bit better for VR. Um, I'm excited to see how they do motion, and I'm excited to see like how good the hand tracking is. But overall, I think a pretty good match, or a pretty good exploration at least. It is sad that this is their main VR showing, and you
well, it
don't
didn't
see
sell well,
PlayStation
right?
VRs anywhere. Yeah, it did
Like
not sell well.
it's
It
really
got
just
bumped
that
down in
Horizon
price.
game, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
All the great games are out there. Like Beat Saber, is it just has existed as PlayStation VR 1. The Batman game that was really really cool didn't come to this system. It was only on MetaQuest. So
Unfortunate. All right, last but not least.
the next game, Pragmata.
Yeah, Pragmata.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. This has been a game that's been kind of floating in the ether for a while. People were happily surprised to see that there was a trailer for this here. I don't know. It looks weird. It's like, is it The Last of Us meets Dead Space? I'll be honest, I did not like the little girl robot at all. I don't like that vibe. I don't like that she's in this giant coat with no pants. I don't like it. I think it's just weird. I thought the voice acting sounded bad. I thought the writing was bad. I think that the game looks cool in kind of a very out there, unique version of Death Stranding, like, hyper technology Death Stranding kind of a thing. But this is not something, again, not for me. And that kind of sums up the show a little bit for Sony's State of Play. It's just not really for me. What are your impressions on Pragmata?
I mean, listen, I don't want to make the show boring, but yeah, no, I don't give a damn. I will say the best thing that this game has going for it is sort of a visual identity that is akin to one of my favorite games, Vanquish.
Oh, wow.
Have you played that game?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Right?
Yes, it does. It does look like Vanquish. That game was awesome, by the way.
That game was so rad. I want to take this game, throw it away, give me Vanquish 2. It does look like a more slow, deliberate, the thought that I was getting was, what is that game where you are, it's like a Dark Souls game, but it's like in a future where everybody has robot limbs, and you can like hack off people's arms and equip them and stuff. It has like an exoskeleton suit. Yeah.
It's all right. If you think of it, we'll come back.
It just looked a little bit like slower than a game like Vanquish or something. Like it's got the combat is a little bit more chill. But outside of that, the trailer kind of gives you some stuff. It's just all, I feel like it's meaningless until the game comes out. And really, the story of this game doesn't move me. So if the gameplay is really, really good, then I'm excited. But it does sort of look like it is about 10 years behind it's just like a 10-year-old concept to just third-person shooter with some added ability that you have with this little girl.
Yeah, I feel that. All right, so that wraps up Sony's State of Play. The obvious missing game there is Ghost of Yotei. Yotei. Why can I never say this? Yotei. Is it Yotei?
Yeah. Ghost of Yotei. Yotei. I think Yotei.
Okay.
Well, I can say there was actually a little bit of Ghost of Yotei, a tiny bit of Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah, but we'd seen that clip already, and then they were like, "What?"
Well, no, the bit with our game of the year last year, Astrobot. Ghost of Yotei is now an Astrobot.
Yes,
that's the most important thing.
Yes,
I was lucky enough on the day that this was airing to be hanging out around Erika Ishii, who is the voice and mocap for the protagonist of Ghost of Yotei. And she was like, yeah, actually I didn't think there was going to be anything on the stage, but I lied, this thing is here and it rocks. She's like, this is probably one of the most exciting things about this game to me. Very cool. More Astrobot.
Yeah, the 5 more levels of Astrobot are coming, so that's always good news. And then they did say they would be doing a deep dive into Ghost next month in July. So hopefully we'll get, because they've committed to that October release date. So, hopefully that comes around and we actually get to see some like in-depth gameplay and how it's going to be different from Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah.
I feel like they'd have to be, right? Like Ghost of Tsushima came out for the PlayStation 4 end of its life cycle. We are a good ways into the PlayStation 5. So I think they're on target. I think they just waited to say anything about it until they knew they could hit that release date.
Sure. All right, so let's get into the Summer Games Fest main stage show. First at the top of the list, we have Resident Evil Requiem. It's just like Call of Duty, they just keep on coming. The Resident Evils, they don't stop. They don't stop coming. So, again, this is not really up my alley. I'm not a big Resident Evil fan. There was a lot of horror games at this entire show, through this entire week. A game that I didn't put on our list was called Ill. It looked absolutely horrifying and disgusting. And
I do want to play Ill. That game looks ill to not.
It looks very ill. But yeah, just a lot of horror games, and the genre is never out of style apparently. So
I do think that game or horror in games kind of half needs I'm trying to think a reinvention akin to like horror films got in the past decade. But to that end, I do feel like the Souls games are kind of horror games because the monsters you fight are grotesque. The loss that you undergo is kind of real, so you approach it. It's like video games, but you approach it a different way than you would a normal game. So that, you know what? Horror is everywhere, sadly.
It is. All right, let's press right along then. Scott Pilgrim EX. I was really excited to see this. I didn't think that another Scott Pilgrim game would be coming, but I do think that the Netflix, the Netflix show, the show remake animated version of Scott Pilgrim, I thought was really, really good. And I was happy. Maybe this is riding on the coattails of that success, or I'm not sure how long this has been in development, but I was really happy to see another Scott Pilgrim side-scroller beat 'em up. So it probably not going to...
Oh, go for it.
I was going to say it's probably not going to reinvent the beat 'em up wheel, but it is, an IP that I really like and identify with. So...
Well, I was going to say, we see a good amount. I mean, granted, it's got multiple playable characters, but it does seem like Ramona Flowers has some story-related stuff to do in this one, which kind of relates to the Netflix series a little bit more than the original film or comic. So, all that to say, very excited. I played the breaks off of this one for the original Xbox 360 on Xbox Live, and I think PlayStation Network, or wherever I could get it. I played it a lot.
Yeah.
It was a really, really fun beat 'em up. Like, surprisingly good for being a Scott Pilgrim movie tie-in game.
I played it recently, actually, but it's like a remastered version available on PlayStation, and I got to a certain point of the game, and the game glitches and it crashes every time. And it's like, this is a remastered version of the game. So hopefully Scott Pilgrim X doesn't have that problem, because that was very disappointing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That was a really great couch co-op experience, that game. And hopefully this one seems like it's got a little bit of a search action Metroidvania style, like you go into rooms and explore, like, and the rooms are like these big fighting arenas, but you're exploring like different areas. That was, I don't know, very excited because that game rocked. But
yeah. All right, pressing right along, Lego Voyagers. This game looked so cute to me. I had like an emotional reaction, and it's not a crazy, it's not an amazing trailer, so I don't want to build anyone's expectations up. But there was just a lot of horror games and stuff we had seen up until that point, and so maybe it like gave my brain a chance to breathe a little bit. But this is a co-op adventure game, and essentially you start out as just a single Lego cube with an eyeball, a googly eye for lack of better words. And you're playing together and putting things together and exploring and manipulating the environment with Legos, and it looks fantastic, although it is obvious in the trailer that some of that is a cinematic and some of it is gameplay. So that's an important distinction there. But yeah, what do you think? We're getting like a Lego game a year now, maybe even two at this point.
I like this version of a Lego game because I feel like it kind of leans more into the creativity of Lego. And this definitely had like sort of, what was that game we played a lot of? The game that the world played a lot of. It has like drawn together vibes, and then what was the divorce video game?
The divorce video game. Yes. Now the before Split Fiction, something together, or it won Game of the Year, for Christ's sakes. We got to remember this.
I know.
Because we're not used to recording on Sundays. That's what's going on.
My brain's melting.
It takes two. There we go.
It Takes Two.
Yeah.
It has some of that vibes where it like requires co-op. It's a 3D platformer, but you also have to use your surroundings and build to solve these puzzles.
Yeah.
And like you said, the characters look cute. I like that they're just little eyeballs that are like expressive, but kind of generic because they are regular Lego. Not generic in the sense of like bad, but generic as they are very imprintable because they are little Lego squares.
Mm-hmm.
So really excited to see where it goes. Also, like the occlusion and like foreground and background stuff, it just makes the game look very cozy and pretty and like kind of dreamlike. So I'm very into it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Lies of P Overture. The DLC for Lies of P actually got shadow dropped at the conference. So Souls-like fans out there, Lies of P fans out there, I'm sure you're probably playing this right now because it's available right now to play. So that was very exciting. I think that was the only shadow drop, except for Splitgate, which didn't really count because it was kind of an early access anyway. Yeah. So yeah, very, very exciting. Always good to have some sort of release at the show. So yeah, you played Lies of P, right, Phil?
I did. I didn't like. I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't fall in love with it as much as I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I wasn't as hungry for a sort of like spiritual successor to Bloodborne as I thought I was, or hungry for it at the time.
Yeah.
But still, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. It was very like competent for being a difficult type of game, and not from like that a developer that normally makes that type of game. So I'm excited for the next Lies of P. Can I spoil Lies of P for you and the folks who are playing?
As long as you say spoiler alert,
okay,
give everybody a chance to get out of here.
Spoiler alert. Come back in 30 seconds. Let's give me some space to breathe.
Okay.
Lies of P1, you're playing the game of Pinocchio thinking that you're Pinocchio. You're this boy come to life. Turns out you're not Pinocchio. You're the freaking Tin Man. And the second game is the Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And like you're going to find Dorothy and the lion and the scarecrow and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're playing as her in the next one. Super interesting, super weird, but I really like that angle of like, let's take some stories that are available and get strange with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where Overture fits into that, but
we'll see.
Cool.
How the story continues. Absolutely. All right, next up, this was, I have to say, hands down, my favorite trailer of the entire week, Atomic Heart 2, and I was not expecting this at all. I'm not necessarily an Atomic Heart fan, but to me, this looks like a Fallout game that I actually want to play, and it has these like. It's grungy, it's steampunk, but it's also shiny and crisp and futuristic. There's so many genres that they're blending in this trailer, and I know most of it was cinematic stuff, but we did get some gameplay glimpses here and there in the trailer, and it looked like that this was just such a fun playground and such an inviting world to explore. And I just really haven't seen that in a video game in a long time, where I'm just like, I just really just want to explore that game, because most games are so narrow-minded in their genre of like, this is a medieval game. And so as a gamer, he's like, all right, I've played a medieval game before. I know what it's going to be like. I've played a sci-fi game before. I know what it's going to be like. With Atomic Heart 2, everything just felt crisp and new and exciting, and the trailer kept going, and I was fine with it. Usually I don't like long trailers because I don't want to see a lot of spoilers, but they just showed me a lot of interesting different angles of this world, and this may sound a little odd, but it kind of reminded me of the Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer that came out several years ago. That, Beyond Good and Evil is never going to come out, but it reminded me of that quite a bit in its vibe, I would say. So did you get a chance to watch the Atomic Heart 2 trailer?
I am as you were describing it, I would pulled it up and I was watching it. This game looks like such a wild departure from what the first one was. I remember playing the first game and being a little disappointed because it's pretty on rails.
Mhm.
And just sort of like going through from hallway to hallway, killing stuff and
Yeah.
surviving. Although great conceptually and great like world they put together. Um, this one looks like. Do you remember when Prey 2 was initially announced?
Yeah.
This looks like that, but for this world.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I really hope that this is the game. Like, it shows the character parasailing and like dropping into war zones or dropping into like areas with this cool uh, helicopter backpack.
Hmm.
Very into it. The only like hold up I have is I wasn't in love with Atomic Heart 1. But if
Yeah.
this can be like what it's promising in the trailer, I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's just as a trailer, it was my favorite. I'm sure it's kind of like we were talking about last week on the episode with the Witcher 4. It's like, yeah, it's
Hmm.
probably not gonna exactly feel like this, but it was a very very solid showing, and I think that it also gave me a vibe of Bioshock Infinite, which I feel
Yeah.
like I've missed that aesthetic a little bit. So I'm glad that something is attempting to fill that void. So, all right. Next up, this game looked so realistic. It was crazy. It's called Felt That Boxing. And it is,
This was my favorite trailer of
yeah, it's,
Summer
yeah,
Games Week.
totally. But it is created in Unreal Engine 5, but it is all puppets. And it is a boxing game, and it looks absolutely hilarious. And the fact that they
Hmm.
were able to make this on Unreal Engine 5 and it actually looks like, wow, those look like Sesame Street puppets, or those look like
Hmm.
puppets from a puppet show. Looked absolutely incredible. I am
Yeah.
probably going to buy this game when it comes out. Why was it
Yeah.
your favorite trailer of the show, Phil?
Well, it had a lot of character. It looked like you were saying, it looked like the Muppets, and it had that sort of Muppet Show sense of humor, a little bit more adult, for sure. And then after all that, the game, and what I assume will be some the terminus of the gameplay, is basically Punch Out.
Yeah,
Punch Out, but Muppets. That's great.
it's a great.
You,
That's a perfect like fusion of things. I love that. That's great.
it's not something that I like expected or wanted, but now that I've seen it, I'm like, thank you for giving that to me. That is what I need. Yes. You fight like these big giant, like they kind of rise up, almost similar to if you played the original Punch Out for the NES. Like they rise up and they're ridiculous looking, and they swing these big things. And I feel like they did that in the same way that the Muppets would do a pastiche on something like that. So
Right.
yeah, I'm very into Felt That Boxing. I can't remember when the release date was for that was, but I believe it's scheduled for this year. So
Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up right now. Um, but something I did want to mention while I'm looking. Oh yeah, I don't believe that they have a release date. Maybe it's hidden in the trailer somewhere. But I also did want to bring up the Mafia: The Old Country had a very long trailer.
oh, cool.
Yeah. Okay. For Felt That Boxing, there's no release date, but you can wish list it on Steam right now. So if you're into
Okay.
that, do that, do so. But yeah, Mafia: The Old Country had a long cinematic trailer. I'm constantly impressed with that game. Although I will say, all the Mafia games kind of look better in the trailers than they do when you're actually playing them. So I
Mm,
hope that this game gives you some freedom. I think that is the key for me. The Mafia 3, I didn't really care for, and it was because of how linear the game was when it really didn't present that in its marketing.
yeah.
So if you can get me essentially Italian Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm going to freaking love that. And that's what this game looks like. It's in the 1800s. It's I don't know. It looks really good. I hope it plays as good as it looks.
Oh,
So
prego, Dutch.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, no, if they can get close to that, I'll be very happy. You know what? I will say, Mafia 3 had its moments. It had some cool stuff. The way that, like, The characters interacting with guns were cool, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But there was just something to like the sway and the way that their bodies moved, and the cool environmental driving, like road signs that would tell you how to get to your next thing.
Yes.
Pretty sick.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. All right. Next up on the list is Out of Words. This is another fantastically looking stop motion artsy game. And this is where they like this and Felt That Boxing, like it was kind of saved the show a little bit for me. Again, didn't make the Summer Games Fest this amazing thing, but it's like, okay, there is kind of a lull in the industry right now, but some people are doing some very creative things. And Out of Words definitely felt like a game. It's, again, I think that people have looked at It Takes Two and Split Fiction and be like, oh, these 2-person cooperative games are really taking off. We should make a lot of them. So I'm a little bit, because, we just talked about Lego Voyagers is that, and now Out of Words is that. But they do look very artsy, and they are games that I am excited to play with my partner. So yeah, what was your impression of Out of Words?
I think I'm a little less hot on Out of Words because it did look like, and this is the thing I think with games that look like this art style. We had one earlier this year. What was it? I can't remember. It was like a sort of story, choose your adventure style game.
Yeah.
Where you're like on the submarine thing, whatever. But sometimes games like that look that way, just by the way that they are animated with like a lot of stop motion, I feel like it's limiting to what you can do in terms of like how the game plays. Maybe that is just the stop motion is how they base the models for the actual in-game stuff. But I'm definitely skeptical. That's right. I guess that is the thing I could say. I'm very skeptical as that they can make this look as good as they like, as consistently as they like, while also feel responsive and enjoyable to play. Right. Especially as a platformer. But
so you feel like you may not be able to interact with a lot of things in the game because of the pre-done stop motion animations?
Yeah, I think that is the most likely case.
Okay, interesting. All right, well, next up on the list, because we got to keep things rolling. Actually, I can't say the name of this game, so you're going to have to say this one, Phil.
This is Infinitesimals.
Thank you, Jesus Christ.
This one, can I give you my elevator pitch on what I saw this one?
Please.
It looks like the game Grounded meets Horizon Zero Dawn meets A Bug's Life meets
my Aunt Marie.
I think meets my Aunt Marie. I think that is the best way to put it. So, Infinitesimals, you play as these aliens that show up to Earth, except you are teeny tiny little aliens. You have all this cool advanced weaponry and tech, and your guy looks like an alien bug dude, but you are surviving in sort of like grounded. You fight spiders, you fight ants. They are massive to you, but also you have like this advanced technology and weaponry and airships. Not only that, you also fight some like weird robot versions of spiders in some bits of the gameplay footage that we saw. So it looks like something that can be very, very fun, but also kind of confusing because Grounded 2 is in the works.
Yeah, and we got to look at that at the Xbox Showcase, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, very conflicting games, like really the same genre. I just feel like maybe this is the more mature one. That I don't think they actually revealed if this is a co-op game, if this is a single player game, whereas we know a lot more about Grounded 2 because we've played Grounded 1, and how it's just really a co-op survival game and whatnot. But yeah, definitely interesting. All right, let's keep pressing through. Or did you have something else to say?
No, I just want to say that this trailer kind of sucked for me.
Why did it suck for you, Phil? What trailer was it?
The trailer for Deadpool VR. It definitely felt like a Borderlands-esque trailer. Like gamers will think this is funny, and to be fair, some of the stuff in the trailer looked really, really fun. Again, this is for Deadpool VR, so you're playing as Deadpool. There are a lot of games that are basically Deadpool VR that you've seen like on TikTok, where someone is like doing flips and catching their gun and shooting someone in the head and like picking their head up and farting on it or whatever. And that that exists already, and someone was like, we should make a Deadpool game. I will say there's also a trailer where Ryan Reynolds is pretending to be Dookie Howser because the voice actor who's playing Deadpool is why can't I think of his name? Neil Patrick Harris, NPH National Treasure. So they're sort of like poking fun at Ryan Reynolds, like, I'm stealing your role because you're stealing my famous role.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think of Deadpool VR?
I thought it was a giant gimmick. That's what I thought. I think it's an interesting idea, but like I think a Deadpool game is better when you are not in a first person sense. Like I know that there was a relatively successful Deadpool game that came out many years ago. Nolan North was Deadpool in that game, and I thought he did a very good job. I like a third person Deadpool game where he can turn around and talk to the screen and talk to you and, challenge that fourth wall a little bit. And I just felt like this looked like a VR game where you can slaughter people in very creative ways. For me, I'm just going to say it felt like a game for a 14-year-old. That's what it is. And, teenagers out there, have a blast with it. It's not for me. I'm good.
Your parents do have to buy it for you because it's going to be pretty hard R.
Yeah. But yeah, not really for me. But this next game on the list is very much for me, and that is Game of Thrones War for Westeros. Over the last 5 years, we have gotten constant Game of Thrones game trailers. And Kit Harington is always the one who's signing these contracts. He's like, hey, I will be in whatever mobile game advertisement you want. I'm going to do it. and there's nothing wrong with that. But this was the first Game of Thrones game that I am actually excited for. This is a real-time strategy. It's not some frickin' phone game with a bunch of microtransactions. Well, we don't know that yet. But this is a fantasy real-time strategy game, which I love. That is my favorite version of real-time strategy games. This reminded me a lot of a game that I really love, made by EA back in the day, which is Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. Game of Thrones is really the closest thing to Lord of the Rings in modern pop culture. And so being able to be like, oh, you can... the trailer was a cinematic trailer, so we didn't see any gameplay, but the game is listed on Steam now, so you can wishlist it. And if you go to their Steam page, they actually have screenshots of what the game actually looks like as opposed to their cinematic. And from what the game looks like, it looks like a classic real-time, strategy game. It's like, oh, this is your barracks, and this is your command fort, and you can play as the Lannisters, or you can play as the North, or you can, have a dragon and whatnot. And so I love all of that stuff. I love real-time strategy. Let's get into it. I'm ready. Show me more. How do I get into a beta? That's where I'm at with this.
This one actually looks pretty good. I like the concept in the trailer that we saw. That you see that. Spoiler for this commercial. Jon Snow gets killed by a White Walker and gets turned into a white. And that is where the game sort of leads off. You see Drogon, the dragon that survived for a long time in Game of Thrones, die in a battle pretty early on in the series. I wouldn't say early on in the series, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. But so they're saying like, hey, whatever you want to do, make the Lannisters win. I don't care. You want to make Podrick your chief war guy? Absolutely, go nuts. So I'm definitely interested in that, and like, I don't know, I like these games that sort of give you the autonomy, especially with like, I think this is the right franchise to use it for, because like, okay, take these clans that that have some history behind them, and then flesh out their story the way that you want it to be fleshed out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another reason why it reminded me of Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth, because in those games, you play through the Lord of the Rings campaign, but you can change what happens. So like if you do like bonus, just as an example, a spoiler alert for Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring, only 24 years ago, but in the game you can like save Boromir from dying, and if you save Boromir from dying, then he's with like Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli at the Battle of Helm's Deep. And it changes the relationship to Gondor and stuff like that. And then there's also the evil campaign where it's like at that moment you can kill Aragorn in the Fellowship of the Ring at the end of there. And so then that changes the story there. And so I'm curious to see, are they going to use the story of Game of Thrones but be like, but you can make this decision instead and switch things up. And that's very much what the cinematic trailer implied. So yeah.
I sure hope so, and I wish that instead of having him go with like that part of the Fellowship, he just hung out with Sam and Frodo, and was just like, just kind of chiming in every now and again. And, Mr. Frodo, we can't do it. I don't know. I can go kill those orcs.
I can
so good.
This. Yeah. All right. So let's move into the final showcase, which not the final showcase, but the last one we're going to cover on this podcast, which is the Xbox showcase that happened earlier this morning. Let's get right into it. So first up on the list, we got Invincible Versus. And, I am a huge Invincible fan. It's my favorite animated show right now. And a great comic and whatnot, but I did not like how this game looked at all. I think, like, aesthetically, I think it looked fine, but essentially what they showed us is that this is a fighting game where you're going to be able to play through some, like, Soul Calibur story where you magically justify, oh, now I'm fighting this person for some reason.
Why is Nolan there in that outfit? Because by that point in the story, that ain't happening.
Sure. But I guess I was really let down the fact that it was 2D. And I was like, you have Dragon Ball Z games that are 3D fighters where you're flying around and, like hitting each other and then like getting thrown into a mountain. And this just looked like, oh, it's a 2D thing. You're fighting on the moon. And the Earth is in the background. It just felt like a very generic fighting game to me. The only quirk about it is that it's a 3v3 tag team fighter, which I guess now is in with, as we talked about, with Marvel Tokon, which is a 2v2 tag team fighter. So, yeah.
I think they're 3v3 as well.
Are they really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think all these fighting game companies think that they're all being original and they're all copying each other. So,
and Fighter Z did it back in the day.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, I watched this trailer and I thought to myself, cool. I think I'd like a fighting game, but visually it doesn't have the same panache as Marvel Tokon. And I think gameplay wise, I got kind of tired of it because what they showed us was 3 characters fighting, all kind of who have similar builds. It was Adam Eve, Invincible. I can't remember the name of the other. No, it wasn't even Rexplode. You see Rexplode in the trailer, but then there's another guy who flies. I can't remember. What his name
Bulletproof.
Is. Bulletproof.
Yeah.
And then you see them fighting either Nolan or the one Viltrumite who has like a blade in her hair. And they showed these same sort of clips and abilities over and over again in the trailer to the point where I was like, okay, come back when you have like a roster of characters. Like, I want a trailer where I see Monster Girl fighting the robot. And yeah. But
yeah, so I did not think it looked very good. The trailer didn't really make a whole lot of sense, like, and that just tells me there's just not a lot of story in the game. It's just an Invincible fighting game. I think it might be okay if this is not a fully priced game. If this is a $30 or a $40 game, sure, maybe. But yeah. All right, let's press right along. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think Skybound sadly doesn't have the budget or currently to make what we all want, which is like an Invincible fighting game that takes place like much like a Dragon Ball Z fighting game, or a Hulk Ultimate Destruction, where you are playing as this character destroying a city and surviving the fight that way.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. All right, Grounded 2 that we started talking about with our last summer main stage showcase talk. Blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of games to get through today. But yeah, Grounded 2 looked good. It felt like the original Grounded, but just better. I think they showed off a lot of vehicle / beast mastering gameplay and beast battling, so that seems to be an important addition to differentiate it from the first one. But yeah, I thought it looked really good. I own Grounded, but I don't think I've ever played it. I've played it like once or twice. So yeah, I think it looks very solid. I'm excited to check it out a little bit more. How did you feel about this?
Looks good. It does. I think what's kind of interesting is that they have a '90s aesthetic, like to the world outside of Grounded. So it's kind of a throwback to that age.
The Honey
Those
I
of us
Shrunk
who
the
grew up
Kids.
with, Honey I Shrunk the Kids. But I do think something that was kind of missing from Grounded 1. I didn't play a lot of it. I played probably 6 to 10 hours. But in Honey I Shrunk the Kids, they befriend an ant, and it's like a whole thing. I like this aspect of it. Bright side, it's coming into early access, I believe, the 29th of July, so we don't have to wait too long.
Yeah.
And it does look like more Grounded, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, the second iteration of a game that I liked pretty well usually becomes a game that I love, so speaks to this game hopefully being a success, at least for me personally.
Absolutely. Next on the list, Call of Duty Black Ops 7, Xbox's big reveal. I don't care. But look, it looked cool, but I feel like the story trailer for these games is really just the eye candy, and then the majority of people who buy these games, they just want to play the multiplayer. And that's been the story with Call of Duty for forever. So I guess I'm glad that they're still putting a story in the game, but the trailer did feel very generic, just like feel like a badass in vague circumstances.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what it was for me.
I definitely feel like the games that kind of catch our attention, especially if they are part of an IP or a franchise that has existed, are something that change the narrative, change the visuals, change the paradigm of how you play the game. And Call of Duty Black Ops 7 shows us very little gameplay, but all of their games have been so iterative, like A to A.1 to A.12 to A.13, that the changes are so minor, it almost feels like a Madden game, to where year by year, you don't necessarily need to buy the next one because you've got it already. This seems like more of that. Call of Duty really needs to figure out either how to do something with their multiplayer that is more inviting to get people off Warzone or just the last most popular multiplayer, or or just like dive into making a game as a service, which is Call of Duty. Every year we'll give you like some new story and new guns. Otherwise, you just pay to play.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder how the COD community feels about this, but it's kind of gotten to the point where they kind of feel, and this is weird because the genre or like the markets are so different, but they kind of feel like the Nintendo market a little bit, where it's like no matter what they do, they're still going to buy it. And maybe I would challenge those gamers to think about where your dollars are going, because the money listens. And if you keep buying it and then complaining about it, like every streamer out there complains about Call of Duty, and then what do they do every year when a new one comes out? They buy it.
Stream the hell out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I played NBA 2K pretty consistently for many years in a row, and I got to the point where I was like, this game is not getting any better. They're just all they're doing is they're starting me over every single year with a new iteration of the game. And it's so what did I do? I didn't buy NBA 2K25. You know, it's not because I don't want to play it, but I love basketball and whatnot. But you know, I gotta correct myself and be like, I should not be giving these people my money if they're not actually working on new things to put in the game. So yeah. All right. So this is kind of an announcement, sort of, not really. So Hollow Knight Silksong, what everyone has been waiting for Xbox to show. They didn't really show this game. They announced that it still would be coming out this year around the holiday season. And they did show this running on the ROG XBOX Ally, which let's just jump to that, Phil, and then we'll come back for those other two announcements. So yeah, we've heard rumors floating around. We've talked about it periodically of a portable Xbox, an Xbox Game Boy, an Xbox Portal, and so we finally got to look at it. I'm not disappointed, but kind of like, what is this? Is not an Xbox. This is, you contracted someone to make sure that Game Pass runs seamlessly with this. And that's good, and that's cool, because Game Pass, again, is a great service. But I guess I thought that Microsoft was actually going to be doing the manufacturing themselves. And I just feel like there's all of these other portable computer gaming devices out there. It's just like, what is this one going to be able to do anything that those other ones can't, other than having the official Xbox stamp on it? Like, I didn't get what was so different about it.
I literally think that's all it is. It is just a ROG, because a ROG Ally you can load Game Pass on. I know with this what is it, Steam handheld, I can't remember what
The
it's
Steam
called.
Deck.
Steam Deck.
Yeah.
You can kind of finagle things into being able to run Game Pass and get the games that way. So I think it's kind of a bummer. Like you said, I was expecting Microsoft to show up with something like a Switch 2 and be like, check it out. Eat your heart out, Mario. We're here. This one's got Blinks the Time Sweeper, and he's pulling up all your stuff. Like something at least that felt Xbox original. And this does granted, it's Microsoft. They are not known for their hardware. They are a software developer. So plugging it into something that already exists makes sense. But I don't. This isn't exciting because you could just be like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go get the newest ROG Ally and basically play Game Pass on it.
Yeah, I don't. It just has Xbox stamped on it. That's all they did. And it's really weird. It's like, I'm pretty sure the ROG Ally even already has the Xbox buttons on it with A, B, X, Y. Like, so I was hoping for a little bit more. I thought the trailer was cool, but yeah. I don't know how this is any different from anything else. So
that's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Clockwork Revolution?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
This trailer was too much. Too much. You did too much. Should have given me a lot less.
Yeah.
I think visually the game looks beautiful, looks very interesting, has these sort of BioShock vibes. And kind of like BioShock Dishonored sort of mixed its steampunky world with all these over-the-top character designs, and a very interesting seeming story. But then when we cut to the gameplay, all of a sudden the gameplay is about changing time in this steampunk world to like affect how things go, and then you get to the gameplay, you're like shooting stuff, and you could turn time back to send bullets at people, or if you die, rewind time a little bit and try to fight a different way.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be the major thing. Like, I was really excited with their robot designs and with their characters in general. Like, okay, we're gonna get some cool like robotic powers. You need to upgrade your arm to get like different robot stuff on it. And then it just turned out to be like time travel, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, but I think tonally it doesn't map over the rest of the game very well. It feels like a hat on a hat.
Sure.
What did you get?
Yeah, no, I felt similarly. I think I liked it a little bit more than you did, but I will say it felt like they were trying to be so unique. There were too many layers on top of it. And like, look, I get that. I get like this is a first person adventure game. It's like, look, we're going to talk about the Outer Worlds, which is not the same game, but it's kind of a similar aesthetic. And so, like, yeah, it was steampunk Clockwork. I get it, but I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to keep an eye on this one, but I do agree with your sentiment of just there's too much going on. I did agree that they showed us too much, especially if the game is not. I don't believe we got a release date for this one either.
I don't think so.
So explain it. Do some gameplay deep dives or something like that, or just show us a level as opposed to jumping around and showing us all this stuff, because it was difficult to understand, okay, what am I actually as the player in control of here, and what of this is just happening in the game that's just a linear experience. So yeah. All right. Rolling right along. Super Meat Boy 3D. The famous platformer, Meat Boy. This is a hugely popular game, and now it is coming to 3D. Do you think this is the right move, taking this 2D platformer and putting it into 3D? It looked kind of fun, but I don't know.
I think it is the only move. Super Meat Boy is pretty like it is a game known for. It's got like level. Or no, there was a version of Super Meat Boy that was released that has basically infinite levels. Like it sort of generates different levels for you. And I think the charm of Super Meat Boy is like doing those as quick as you can. Meat Boy, the way he moves, like he slides on the blood that's coming off him because he's made of meat. And it's got sort of, I'm trying to Celeste vibes in terms of your movement and how you get around, your wall jumping and all this stuff, but a lot of really dangerous, like, meat grinders, buzz saws, lasers flying at you, and you have to avoid your way around them. I think it is ambitious to do this as a 3D platformer, but I think if anyone can do it, hopefully it is this team, because they made 2D platforming feel so good. Hopefully they can do the same with 3D, and if so, I mean, there's something like, when you're playing Astrobot and you have a really sick run on one of those really tough levels.
It's a rush.
If this can capture that feeling with hopefully even quicker like reset and load times, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very interested. I think it's a good twist. I think that the gameplay that they did show off, because some of it was a cinematic, or a lot of it was actually, but it kind of looked like Astrobot a little bit. And yeah, I am excited for it. It's probably going to be a Game Pass game, most likely. So I'll probably definitely check it out. All right, 2 more things before we got to wrap it up, because we are over time, but it's Summer Game Fest episode, so it's okay. High on Life 2 was announced, and we got a pretty in-depth trailer. Got some new guns. It has that same quirky style to it. I was not thinking that High on Life would get a second game, but it definitely is. And it looks like they're going bigger and badder. We didn't get too many details. It's more just like what Easter eggs can you pull out of the trailer. Yeah, but you seem pretty excited about this. Yeah, Phil?
I don't know about that. I think like
not excited.
He served me up one and I was like, bunt. No, I think that it looks fun if you like High on Life. It looks like an evolution of High on Life.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of like skateboarding and grinding. So trying to like, I think, take that Doom movement, not necessarily, yeah. But, I think they're trying to like rhyme with that Doom movement and find an identity for this game. I think the issue with High on Life is they lost Justin Roiland. He's taken a step back from Squanch Games, just as he has with the production of Rick and Morty. He's not really affiliated anymore. And High on Life 1 was a pretty good shooter with some interesting visuals and like interesting gameplay mechanics, but mostly relied on his voice and writing for the guns and the world around you. Like that was the comedy of the thing. So if they can manage to find a new identity and keep some of that comedy alive with different voice actors, I think this might find itself a home, but I can't see it being more than a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I like the Doom comparison. To me, this is Ratchet and Clank meets Doom. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious to see how it does. I'll keep my ear to the ground. I just downloaded High on Life 1 on my PS5. I'll play through that and see how it is. It got pretty good reviews. I remember I didn't buy it initially because it was one of the first games to integrate AI voice acting, which I am against. And so that's why I was excited for High on Life 1 originally. But yeah, I didn't end up purchasing it until I got the free version on PS Plus.
There we go.
All right. So last for the Xbox Showcase and last for our show is the Outer Worlds. Got a pretty in-depth trailer. Outer Worlds 2, got a pretty in-depth trailer. And they got a firm release date of October 29th, our friend Austin, who we did an interview and is a level designer over at Obsidian, who is working on this game. They are, I know from what he tells me, they are working hard on this. So I'm surprised. They had a trailer there, but it looks like next month, similar to what Sony is doing with the second Ghost game, is they're going to be doing an in-depth gameplay showcase where it is just gameplay of people going through a mission or something like that. So yeah, I think it looks really fun. It looks like how Borderlands should be. It looks like somewhere in between Fallout and Borderlands. And I think it has a very unique voice. It's like a game about capitalism, brought to you by capitalism. And I loved that laughing at itself quirkiness that it has. And just Obsidian just makes such great games. So I'm really curious to see how this game does. And I'm definitely going to play it, especially because it's going to be on Game Pass. So yeah, a solid way to end Xbox's showcase.
Yeah, I agree. I think mostly the game just needs to, like, for me to focus on its gunplay, and it looks like they're trying to address that. They showed us a lot more action in this trailer, to make it feel like, boom, this game hits, boom, this game rocks right out the gate.
Yeah.
I think the story stuff, Obsidian has a real strong grip on that. They're really great at being sort of a virtual DM and taking whatever you say happened and expanding on it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the Outer Worlds too. I think much like I was saying earlier about the first game in a series, this seems to be probably the Outer Worlds that I will fall in love with because it has got just more to it. They've iterated and completed a lot of the visions from the first game. So
just feels like a more fleshed out world, fleshed out universe, and fleshed out aesthetic. I feel like this game really has a voice now, or in the Outer Worlds 1, they were trying to figure out what that voice was. So yeah, I think that's great. Why don't we wrap up this episode by, can we do a letter grade for each of the 3 main events? So for Sony State of Play, what would you give the State of Play, Phil?
Solid C.
Okay, I'm gonna go C-. For the Summer Games Summer Games Fest main stage, what about that? What do you give that one?
That's going to be another C.
All right, I'm going to go B-.
Okay.
And for the Xbox showcase, what do we got?
Well, I think this one stood apart in a way that I will have to also give it a C.
And I was going to say C+, so...
Okay, here's a question I pose to you.
Yeah.
What do you think won Summer Games Fest? Like, what particular showing, which of the stages, what won Summer Games Fest for you?
I mean, I thought that Summer Games Fest, the main stage, was the best showing. They just had a lot of things. I feel like when you look at both Sony and Microsoft, their first party showings, like there were no big games here. There were no big franchises here at the fest. It was just like a bunch of, I don't know. It's like you went to Comic-Con and no movies were announced, but a bunch of TV shows were. That's what it feels like.
TV shows for the CW.
Yes, the Flash is back. So yeah, I say overall like a C is a good rating, like you said, for this whole event. But yeah, I'd probably give it to Jeff Keighley on the main stage. I felt like they just had a good assortment of everything. Of like, here's some really cool artsy games, and then here's Atomic Heart 2, and then here's Lies of P Shadow Drop right now, and and then you got the things for the JRPG fans out there. You got Resident Evil for the Resident Evil lovers out there. There was just a spattering of everything, and I feel like. But yeah, overall, there was no big, amazing game winner thing. Like I said, my favorite trailer was Atomic Heart 2. That was my favorite trailer. So, Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to give it to CD Projekt Red with their Witcher 4 showing. That thing, I'm still thinking about that versus everything else I've seen at Summer Games Fest.
You are so right. That is included in this week. So yes, The Witcher 4 had the best showing by far. Let's go.
I really like. On a serious note, I do think that like game developers need to model their explanations of their games off of that. You see some gameplay, you show us the world, and you show us the tech.
Yeah.
The thing that makes your game what your game is.
Absolutely.
And do it in an approachable way like CD Projekt Red did. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Well, we are well over time. We're at 1 hour and 15. Oh my goodness, but we had so many games to get through. Stay tuned for the next episode of the GGG podcast, but we thank you for listening to our rundown. It was a lot of stuff to get through, so sorry if our heads seemed a little jumbled at times. It's a lot of information to process. Next week, we're probably going to be talking about everyone's reaction to the Nintendo Switch 2 being released, which we did not mention, did not talk Nintendo on this episode. So we're
let's talk about staples, baby.
Staple. Yeah, that story is funny. We'll definitely talk about that. So we'll see you next week for our next episode. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and like this video. And if you're listening to the audio only version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow us over there as well. Give us a review. Appreciate you guys' support out there. And one more shout out to Zesty Plays. Thank you, Zesty Plays, for your support. We really appreciate it. Any last little things to leave us with before we peace out, Phil?
Everything I said was JK. I'm giving it to Deadpool VR.
Excellent. Yeah, I thought Titanfall 3 was the best announcement. Okay.
Oh, my heart.
All right. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.